do you think that you turned off like you're obviously because you're a famous wrestler, your audience is going to come from your wrestling audience and stuff. Do you think that your wrestling fans that follow you were turned off by that?
Yes and no. So the problem with that was I went through a period there with my injuries, man, where, and I don't know if like when you leave, like I left like the way that I did, and it's gone through phases. Like now I feel like I'm pretty much back to normal. But man, I didn't want to talk about wrestling for a bit either. And like she wasn't current on like the product. So there was a stretch there where I actually got away from actually talking about wrestling, and the numbers did dip down eventually. It didn't right away, but then when I eventually brought wrestling back and then brought Raj on over there and started doing it in a better way and enjoying talking about it again, the numbers started coming up again. So and I've gone through phases with that.
Well, here's what happens. I want to just comment on both those things you brought up. A lot of times when people first get out of WWE, and I'll call them and I'm like, yo, man, do you want to do some shots in Mexico? They're like, bro, I don't want to know shit about wrestling. Yeah. And so I understand that, which is true, bro. You just went through that concentration camp called the wrestling business. Because, super traumatic. The politics, the bullshit, the backstabbing, the always having to look a certain way, being lied to, all that bullshit. We already know it. Everybody's talked about it. And the second thing that I wanted to bring up was what was the second thing you mentioned? I'm sorry.
What was I went through periods of talking about wrestling and through the phases, and then I'm just trying to think. Then we brought it back on, having Raj back on and talking about it.
So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So I first started podcasting about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So I was one of the first ones. I think the only other guy out there might have been Colt Cabana, maybe Meltzer. And then a lot of wrestlers, because I said I didn't want to talk about wrestling, so I was talking about politics, pop culture, anything that interested me, and wrestling.
Same.
Then there were other guys that they were like, "Fuck wrestling, I want to talk about other shit." But at the end of the day, like if you're gonna listen to to let's say a Shaquille O'Neal podcast, you want to hear about basketball.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day,
bread and butter.
To talk about wrestling, right? Yeah.
And it's hard. It doesn't translate to other things, and as well known as wrestlers can be, unless you're one of the, even guys, like a Stone Cold and The Rock, until they The Rock went and got big into movies, but even then, like everything they do, it's wrestling oriented until The Rock's at another level now where he's outside of that. But man, and that's just the way it is in the wrestling world and in sports in general. That you can't turn your back on what made you in a way, even though we get burnt out. And I think talking about it sometimes, and for me, it was really difficult because I wanted to still be doing it, didn't want to leave. So it was a really tough thing, but we all go through that. And but our audience, I can talk what I want to talk about with the guest. I give them the wrestling on the second part of the show, and I give them the motivation at the end, and I kind of blend it all together. That way, if they don't want to tune into the other stuff, they're more than welcome to leave, and give them what they want every week.
What was that?
I want to bring something up.
Yeah.
Like a lot of our listeners are like people that like don't even not a lot of people watch. That's the whole thing. There's wrestling fans out there that don't watch wrestling anymore. They just the product today. They just don't watch it.
Yep.
This is what I find fascinating about the product today and the fans that it draws. Bro, do you see like the bulk of like the advertisers that hit these podcasts and stuff? Everything like what they're advertising. This to me is fascinating, bro. And I'm looking at the wrestling fans these days, and you look at the arenas and you look at the people in the crowd.
Yep.
And it's like
the Jericho Cruise.
Well, you look at the Jericho Cruise. You look at the people there, and bro, these are like some of our top advertisers. Sexual dysfunction pills.
Yep.
Personal hygiene.
Yep.
Manscaped. Tiege Hanley for facial wash and stuff like that. And I'm looking at. I keep saying this. It's like, guys, look at the fans that you guys are drawing to this product these days. Literally, it's like people that like have bad hygiene and stuff, and advertisers are literally seeing this and targeting this market with these products. And I'm like, it's like, and it's good to have like a guy like you will come on and like you'll have a porn star on with you, and you would think like 20 years ago back in our day that would have been like an unbelievable like huge audience of wrestling fans would have been watching that, and now it's like they're turned off by it.
Yeah,
it's like it's really weird how wrestling fans are just this weird group of people that all they like is wrestling. It's like they don't really even like anything else,
That's always been there. And I remember being a kid going to the shows. And I think I told you, I don't know if I told you this when I remember my dad went with me when I was younger to one of the WWE shows. And I played sports my whole life and I loved it. I wanted to do it, but I wasn't, I watched it and I had other kids. I saw other kids in school that were like, had the shirts and they had the titles and they were very obsessive about it. And I always thought that was just different to me.
Weird.
It wasn't, I didn't associate with it. And I remember going to the show and I looked around and I saw what you just described. And I said to my dad, it was my Shallow Hal moment with my dad in the beginning of Shallow Hal. And I go, Dad, what's wrong with all these people? And he goes, son, they're fucking girls. And they weren't, but it is what it is. And so what wrestling is now, we've let them jump the guardrails. We've let them now in the locker rooms. We've let them become the stars. And we've started catering to that portion of the audience rather than catering to the world. And that audience is still going to be there because that audience has always been there. We've just now said, oh, we're just going to really target in on that portion of the audience who's going to be there regardless. And it's debatable on, is it the right move or the wrong move? In my opinion, it's the wrong move and to cater to them fully because they're never going to be happy because they're not happy with themselves in the beginning.
Plus, like you said, they're going to be there anyways.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I was telling Disco that I noticed is, and you know how you have to preface everything nowadays, but so we'll preface this by, I'm not saying this in a derogatory manner, but like a lot of the fans now are nerds, geeks, the LGBTQ community. Yeah. You know, that's kind of like what you're seeing now. And that's seeped into the dressing room. You know, that's what a lot of the performers are, you know, like now you have these whole promotions. I went to one in Chicago called Rise. Yeah. It was a great experience, but everything there was LGBTQ, you know, oriented.
And my thing is too, is like sexual orientation. I don't give a shit what anyone is. I don't think though it needs to be, it's almost like if you're a guy like, oh man, I got so much pussy. Like it's just, you're constantly saying it. It's like, okay, shut the fuck up. Like it's just I just don't. You are what you are. I don't understand why it's wrestling. I want to go there to escape reality and watch people the illusion of a real fight and suspend my belief like a real movie. And it's just a different time. And is it the right thing or not? And I'm all for everything and evolving and growing. And I'm as understanding as anybody. But I just think though wrestling has gone this other direction that. It's gotten away from being based around a real fight, in my opinion.
1,000% more to like art.
Yeah,
is that when you open this product up to like the inclusivity and stuff, what you get then is all these people that have like all these unwritten rules now that you must follow because like when you're dealing with inclusivity, there's the LGBT or now it's like the fans have to react a certain way and they can't. You know, if a fan says a homophobic slur, one of the wrestlers is like that fan is chastised and demonized and doxxed and stuff and like all these new rules and like and stuff. And the thing is like it's not that I'm against all that. It's like, but
it shouldn't be.
I don't care about it. I'm not interested in all that crap as a wrestling fan. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're trying to make me interested in stuff that I'm not interested in and don't care about. And the way you're pushing it on us is like kind of like. It's like, man, enough. It's like this professional wrestling. Go ahead.
This is what I think has happened, Ryback, and for so many years, white men were the central focus of just about everything, and so now that minorities and women and the gays that don't have to hide and and be in the closet and all that, they're all coming out and they're all like, it's my turn, but it's like, I'm tired of hearing it's your turn. Okay, it's your turn. Good, we're all inclusive now, right?
Yeah.
No need to hear about it. And on top of that, it almost seems
it also shouldn't give you an opportunity as far as it shouldn't elevate you just because of your status.
Right. And here's the other thing. It's like they ain't afraid to be hypocritical, like if you don't do what they want, they ain't afraid to bully you. They hate bullying, but if you don't do what they want, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so it's just gotten out of hand.